Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are once again welcome to Heritage TV, hanging out with Vicky. I hope you have a lovely day so far. Today with me is I have Marie and Eric Amoakwa-Boadu, who are life and marriage coaches. I've known them for quite a while. They are very prominent on all our social media handles. Welcome, Marie and Eric.
Hello, Vicky.
Hello, Vicky. Thank you.
Thank you for having us on.
Wonderful. You're looking great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Right. Today's topic is on COVID-19 and its effect on Ghana. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to waste my time. Marie or Eric, could you tell us your observations so far since we were told about this pandemic, and to date, what are your thoughts? How we handled it and how far have we come?
So I'll start off by saying that this pandemic is something that we've not really seen before. It's something which is so different to the whole world. So it's not just Ghana alone which is suffering from this disease, but we as a whole, as a world, is really suffering from this pandemic. I'll take us to the global status where we are as of today, and then we'll delve deeper into Ghana. So I'll be reading off some statistics because this is very, very technical in its sense, where we try to gather information from around the world to make sure that we are well informed. So when you look at the whole world in general, as of today, I just went off the World Health Organization website just to find out where we were as a people. And there are about 3.4 billion cases recorded so far, out of which 240,000 plus have died, which is remarkable. It's unprecedented when you think about it. And then out of the 3.4, we've got about 1.09 million people who have recovered. So it's not all doom and gloom. We've got some good news as well. Some people are recovering from it. But we shouldn't downplay this disease at all because we know the effect. And I was reading somewhere yesterday and also listening to audios from doctors from the US where they have said that this disease is not only affecting your lungs, but it's actually the virus attacks your blood cells, out of which the lungs try to fight it off. That's why you get shortness of breath. Now, from this that we've seen, many countries have approached it different ways, but there's a common strain amongst all, be it washing of hands, be it using hand sanitizers, be it wearing masks, social distancing. But each country has treated it differently, and this is where Ghana comes in.
Yes, and first of all, let me say hi to you, Vicky, and also all the viewers, everybody who's watching us across the world. Hi. I think, just as Eric said, this pandemic is something that has taken the world by surprise, all of us. I believe that there are people who are even in their 7th and 8th decade of life, i.e. in their 70s and 80s, who have never experienced anything like this, not to talk of you and I and our children.
Yeah.
So it came as a shock to all of us, to our systems, to our psyche, because we have never experienced anything like of this sort. However, I think as a people, or narrowing it down to our country, Ghana, I think we have done well as a society, as a country. I think we need to applaud our leaders as well. They have done exceptionally well in the way the whole situation has been handled. Now, to give a bit of a personal experience myself, which is why I have this viewpoint that Ghana has handled it very well. I traveled to Ghana in February, beginning of February, for a program in Ghana. And when I arrived at Kotoka International Airport, to my amazement, as we came out of the plane at the new terminal, you know, they have the tunnel that you walk through, so you don't actually walk through the tarmac or have to get on the bus any longer. I'll go through just like other international airports. As we came out of the tunnel, just about going the escalators to go to immigration, there was a whole bunch of Ghana airport authority staff with the nose masks, with health cards, giving them out for us to fill out. And it was only at that it really struck me that this thing was very serious. So in fact, I even shared a joke with one of them that you people are the ones who are actually scaring us, because where I'm coming from, i.e. the UK, is not as serious as you people are making it seem to be. Vicky, it wasn't until I returned back to the UK when everything started unfolding here that I realized that, wow, this thing was very serious, and that Ghana had already started Ghana had already started taking steps, or they had already put measures in place to make sure that people in Ghana, or the citizens, were safe. So it wasn't until everything started unfolding that I started understanding the reason why they had done that. You know, because looking at the case of Ghana, it was the imported cases, i.e. people who had traveled from abroad, who had entered into our country, that had actually brought this disease or the virus to the country. So I think Ghana has done an amazing job. So far, so good. However, with everything, there are certain, there are glitches here and there that need to be discussed. So I'm sure we'll talk about those as we go along.
Definitely. And as you said, Ghana really took action from the onset. Took action very early, because compared to the UK, for instance, Ghana had, as you said, people measuring temperatures at the airport, whereas the UK at that time hadn't started.
Yeah, and you also had to declare whether you had, the health card that they gave us, you actually had to declare whether you had any symptoms of, what I think is a normal cold here in the UK or a normal flu. They were already recording all those things. So I suppose it is from that information that Ghana was able to do their contact tracing, or they were able to do tracing with people who had entered the country and who they had come into contact with. And then post that, after I had returned, or a bunch of us had returned back around middle of February, early March, that the 14 days quarantine and everything kicked in Ghana. So I must say they've done really well. Not only that, in fact, when I was returning back to the UK, I think it was on the 16th of February, even at the airport on my return back, there was a gentleman who actually put one of those infrared thermometers in my face. And I even said to him, I said, why are you putting this in my face? You have to explain to me what it is that you're trying to do. And he said, Madam, I have to check your temperature. And I said, well, but I'm leaving the country. If anything at all, I'm taking whatever I have with me away. But it wasn't until later on that everything started making a lot of sense to me. So I must say, kudos to Ghana. They did really, really well with that.
Wonderful. So can we go into the testing procedure?
Right. So when it comes to testing, let's look at the figures in Ghana before we look at how they are testing it. As of today, for instance, Ghana has recorded 2,169 cases. That's because when we heard that they had 2 cases, we were so alarmed. I can't remember after the president's speech to the nation, after we heard about the 2 cases, and a lot of people were so alarmed about it, including ourselves. Fast forward a month after, we've got 2,169, and you will ask why that rise if the first 2 were foreigners that actually came into the country. Now, out of that 2,169, we have 80 deaths out of it, and then 209 who have recovered. So it's not, as I keep saying, all doom and gloom. Now, when you look at this, and the last time it was recorded, which is April 28th, we've had a rise of about 95 new cases. So it's rising in Ghana quite rapidly. But there are reasons for that. And I would say that Accra tops, obviously, because it's a heavily dense city. It tops the figures. Accra has about 1,852 cases. Ashanti region is next. Ashanti region has about 118. It goes down all the way to western north region. So it's going, I think it's affected about 10 different regions at the moment. The northern region, which is the northeast region, has 2 cases. So it's actually traveled across the length and breadth of Ghana, which is quite alarming, because I was thinking that we'll be able to contain it in the cities and not allow it to go all the way up north. Now, talking about testing, Ghana, and I'll say we have been able to test it extensively since the 3-week partial lockdown was lifted. Because you can remember, the lockdown was on Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi. That was the first time I heard about Greater Kumasi.
Yes.
But since the 3-week lockdown, the government has ensured that there are more test centers around the country. And then he's also approached it with aggressive contact tracing. So when I talk about contact tracing, I mean when, let's say, you have a case and you've been into contact with your family members or friends or even strangers, they are able to interrogate you or just ask you where you've been. And then they are able to follow up to get more cases out of where you've been, because you know this thing is airborne. By droplets. So let's say when you come into contact with a person and you speak with a person, or you touch the person, or the person touches you, the likelihood of him or her taking it over with them is quite high. So they are able to get in touch with people that you've been in contact with, and as a result, they've been able to get more cases coming up. So it's not only because the cases are spreading so fast, but it's also because the government is doing more contact tracing. So that is it, to do how they are able to record all these numbers. Now, at the moment, they've been able to, and I'll talk of figures at this stage because it's scientific, and with scientific discussions, you need to be able to back it with the figures. They're able to do 117,000 plus cases. Now, when I talk about cases, and I'll clarify it here, it's not the people. It's actually the number of tests that they've run. Because for each case, for instance, or for each person, they, let's say, 3 times before they can say at the end of the third one that you haven't got it, you are negative. So let's say they test you and you're positive now. At the second stage, they test you again to make sure that you are negative or positive. And then they test you a third time to be able to release you completely. And they've done that 117,000, and I'll get the figure right, and 49 to be exact, to be precise, as of today. So Ghana is really doing well. And they've even employed using drones to take the samples from the villages into the Noguchi Test Center in Kumasi and other test centers in Ghana. So Ghana has been really proactive, as Marie was saying, in being able to identify those who've got it, and then secondly, making sure that they are tested for it.
So going into the communities to test people, how are they able to locate? Because this our kind of address system is not all that great. So I was just wondering, how are they really able to locate people who are suspected of having the virus?
I think for me, mentioning the address system, in terms of Accra, they're doing a great job. I have seen with my own eyes. In fact, when you go to my parents-in-law, Eric's parents' home now, right on the wall by the gate, there's the address there, which is very encouraging. It's nice to see that we're getting aware as a name. So I believe that has helped, but I suppose they've relied mostly on the integrity of people. People being honest enough to say that it is whom I have come in contact with, or these are the group of people that I have come in contact with, and them being honest enough to say or to allow themselves to be tested. I believe that's how they've been doing it. In terms of the rural areas, I don't know, but I suppose they had to rely on the people. Now, this is something that must be teamwork. And I'm very excited that we're having this conversation this afternoon, because when matters like this arise, in as much as we would always like to point fingers at our leaders and put the blame on them and put the heavy burden on them, it's not up to the leaders alone. It's up to all of us as a collective. It's our collective responsibility to make sure that things are working and they work well. At the end of the day, it's so that people's lives are saved. That I am healthy, you are healthy, the next person is healthy, all live and not have to die from something that could have been easily prevented had you been honest and told the truth that yes, you have come in contact with such and such person. So I believe that the ways they've been able to achieve that people are just honest enough to tell them whom they've come into contact with.
But Vicky,
But Marie, was it a good idea? Eric, sorry. Was it a good idea during the lockdown to allow people to travel out of Accra? Because people were saying that it wasn't a good idea to allow people to travel, back to Accra. Because we have so many people coming from the other regions coming to work in Accra. So when they said there was going to be a lockdown, people were just rushing back to, their hometowns. Was it a very good idea?
I think in response
or should they
to
have
that,
been kept in Accra?
Yes, but you see, people in Accra who come from other regions and were trying to Accra to go back home, they were not being kept there by government. They came to Accra as a matter of choice. Once again, because of our lack of understanding of these things, or let me say the lack of understanding from majority, which we can sit here and down go into the as to why people don't get these things. One of them is the lack of education, illiteracy, and all of these are. So immediately the announcements started coming from central government or from our leaders, a group of people took it as though that they had been asked to go back to their hometowns. And clearly that's not what the president said, or that's not what the authorities said. And so we saw the chaotic, the chaos that was happening at the trotro stations or the bus stations, where people were just trying to escape, leave Accra because, we heard things like we should leave Accra and go to hometowns. Meanwhile, that wasn't the case, so they had to leave Accra to travel, wasn't the case. People had made the choice to sort of leave Accra on their own accord. When government said lockdown in Accra and lockdown in Greater Accra and lockdown in Greater Kumasi, what we now know to be Greater Kumasi, what he was to everybody who was within those confines, the confinement of Greater Accra and Greater Kumasi. So it didn't matter whether you came from Wa or Navrongo. If you were in Greater Accra at the time of the lockdown, that's exactly where you were meant to be. You were not meant to leave to go anywhere. But Vicky, you and I know, trust our people, aswading and misinterpretation, not really understanding. So people picked up their bags, and that's where we started having problems.
Okay. So Eric, you were saying something before
I was going to add more to the honesty of people when it comes to contact tracing, and the fact that there's that in Ghana is unnecessary to do with people who practice these, and the society people shun you. It's not just Ghana, across the world. It's led to people not being honest enough to give information. So when contact tracing, when we are relying on the people, because in Ghana's address system, it's just, let's say, the cities like Kumasi, Accra, Takoradi are really effective and not the local, rural areas. We rely on the people to be as honest as possible. But because of the stigma within society, this is not Ebola, this is not AIDS, this is just, it's a very dangerous disease, though. If you save more lives as opposed to the society having a stigma around those who practice it, which will lead to, if they don't give information, more people dying in their community. So we are entreating all Ghanaians to relax. They should be as honest as possible to give information to allow for the scientists and the doctors to do their job.
And those who don't understand what stigmatization is, I know at the moment there's a lot of awareness going on by the Ministry of Information, because I follow them a lot just to keep update myself about what's going on back home. And they talking about that. So we would also end anyone who has that mind that people need to be stigmatized in society just because they had COVID-19, coronavirus.
Okay.
That needs to stop. You just cannot sideline an individual or begin to treat people like cars because they've had coronavirus. Yeah.
Okay. What's your take on enforcing social distancing? There's been a whole lot of media coverage on this, especially when it comes to the distribution of food. Was social distancing, enforced?
I think we can spend the whole day talking about this in Ghana because you know what?
I know, exactly.
Lifted. The government had about 4 key things in mind. Number 1 was social distancing. Number 2 was the use of masks, the nose masks. Number 3 was washing your hands, and the hand sanitizers is the 4th one. Now, out of this, I would say that the most important is the social distancing, from my view, in the sense that if you do not come in contact with a person, you would not transfer it to that person. So, just keeping that to when you stretch hands and you're not able to touch that person is good enough to say that you've observed it. You don't have it to measure, but that's just by eye, your hands, and you're not able to touch. That's a good enough gap. In Ghana, during the lockdown in Greater, as Marie said, we've been watching the news every night because then we're on lockdown. We're on lockdown. It's about week 6 in London.
Yes.
We realized that not a lot of Ghanaians were following that directive. Now, during the lockdown, the government decided to, let's say, distribute food and groceries to the less privileged in society, the vulnerable. And they didn't do a lot of education before they started distributing the food. So they were caught up with people just rushing to come and get food to eat. Because when you take, let's say, the normal Kayayo who earns less than $1 a day, who doesn't know where the next food is coming from, who is very hungry. A hungry man is an angry man.
Yeah.
An angry man.
You pack up a car full of food stuff. You don't give any directive as to how they will line up or who is going to get the food next. And then you address them that, okay, this is the food, come and get it. I tell you, it will be pandemonium. People will rush over just to get something to eat. So the instructions or the education beforehand wasn't clear enough. And then when it comes to community by community, people didn't even know where the next food was coming from or exactly they should go to. So if by word of mouth they hear that, there's food being distributed in Kumasi, Bantama, for instance, the locals will just rush. And when they get there, they try and get their food. Having said that, there were a few places where the directive was followed, whereby you saw people line up with the right spacing between them. And that happened initially. But as time went on, people were so desperate for food that they would do anything just to get it. In so doing, they flouted the social distancing rule completely. And that's just to do with food.
Yeah. And I think just to add to that, during the first couple of days when we realized that things weren't going well, I actually made a personal phone call to the Deputy Gender Minister, Honorable Frida Prempe. And I said to her, Honorable, the way things are going, the way we are seeing the images on social media, if we're not careful, we're going to put ourselves in very serious trouble.
Yeah.
So she explained to me exactly, because she was deployed to Kumasi. So she explained to me exactly what was supposed to be happening and how things had turned out the way they did. So apparently, when government said that they were going to distribute food, it was supposed to be for the vulnerable in the society.
That's right.
And vulnerable in the society are, let's say, the aged. So the old people in the society, those who cannot afford to go outside to do anything for themselves. It was supposed to be for persons with disabilities because they come under the category. people with impairment and things like that. I mean, I suppose viewers listening have an idea of who vulnerable people are, or the category that we classify as vulnerable people. However, just as Eric said, the moment people heard that food was being shared, everybody decided that for the first time, they didn't have food in their homes anymore. They all needed to come out and get free food. I mean, it got to a point where I said to myself, perhaps people who were given food during the, those who had come in from abroad, who were given food by government during the quarantine period, some of them actually came out and showed what they were being given. We saw people showing rice with chicken on the side and salad and things like that. Perhaps they shouldn't have done so, because that triggered the fact that if government is giving out food, then it's for everybody, number one. And number two, it has to be food of that nature.
That's right.
So in as much as it became very chaotic in itself, people also started complaining that they weren't being given quality food and things like that. And then that's how the whole pandemonium started, and there was everywhere, which in itself could have, I mean, I'm not surprised at where we are today with the numbers. Just last week, I believe Thursday or so, we were at 2,074. And then just 3 hours ago, on the Ministry of Information website, they updated the numbers, and we are now 2,169, which means that within a matter of a few days, I mean, Thursday, Friday, today is Saturday, within a matter of about 3 days, we have a rise of 95 cases, and it's down to our own habits. It's down to our own habits, our own behavior. So the food sharing, that wasn't so much. The intentions by government were good. However, the way it was executed became very problematic.
That's right.
And I think it was a good idea that they just had to. Do you
think that the sharing of the food, they should have given cooked food or uncooked food, so that people can, let's say rice, yam, and all those things? Should they have given food that was cooked? Or they should have given, packs of rice, a little bit of, sardine, tomatoes, that kind of thing? That's the first question. The second question is, I read that when it came to distribution of food, a lot of politicians were using politics to distribute food. You could see a politician's picture on, a takeaway food, which, honestly speaking, I was amazed. Why politicize this?
Yeah, I think I'll take the first question, and then Eric can take the second part of the question.
Right.
So for me, again, it was one of the things that Honorable Frida explained, and it was one of the suggestions that I also brought to her attention. And in fact, I said, Honorable, just stop giving out the cooked food. I think on one breath, we can say that yes, cooked food was very necessary. Because if we are talking about the vulnerable in the society, Vicky, if you go and give them a bag of rice, a bottle of oil, a couple of tins or cans of sardine and tomatoes and things like that, what are they going to do? Eventually, they'll have to get somebody to do the cooking for them, which is tedious in itself, it's work and all that. So giving them cooked food so they had something readily available to eat was the best thing to do. However, it was causing a lot of problems. So I suggested to Honorable Frida, I said, Honorable, just give them the raw ingredients. And she said that they had, based on the situation on the ground, they had to do both. So they had, for some instances, they had given out the raw ingredients for people to go and cook themselves. And then in other instances too, they had to go ahead and give out the cooked food. Left to me alone, I would have just given everybody raw ingredients and leave the cooked food specifically for those maybe persons with disabilities and the aged. But we are where we are today, so I think all in all,
I think it's a learning process. It's a learning process for us and the government as well, so that we are not praying for something like that to happen in the near future. But when it does, at least with this experience that we've had with this, we know how to improve on the measures we put in place. Do you have anything else to say before I go?
May I add a little bit to what you just said? I think again, one recommendation that we really need to urge our governments to do or our leaders to do is the fact that we now know that pandemics happen almost every 100 years. So all things being equal, you and I will not live to see another pandemic, but perhaps our children might, So we urge our government, yes, to really sit up and put measures in place that children today, when they grow up and also become leaders, can have something to fall back on and say, when it happened in Ghana in 2020, these are the measures that our leaders put in place, and today we can make reference to them and either add or deduct or take something out and also formulate their own. But we must have something in place so that in future there's something to fall back on. Yeah.
So when it comes to politicizing the whole situation, it's such a shame. When people started distributing food items and groceries, I quite remember with, let's say, Kwame Bediako, we had Despite doing his own, we had Asamwajan doing their own. There was no label on these things. They just went there, bought, let's say, rice, oil, canned food, and just distributed it. Now, as time went on, politicians got involved. And you know what politicians do? They do what they know. They do what they know best. And in Ghana, politics is like a religion to us, unfortunately. So they came in, and every item that they gave out, they used their pictures to stamp on these items. Now, come to think of it, we have an election, a major one, a parliamentary and the presidential one coming up in December. Lockdown, primaries of the MPP, for instance, were meant to have started already. And the NDC announcing their running mate was supposed to have happened. But because we are all locked down, the whole world doesn't know our left from our right at the moment because it's the first time it's happened in our time. I think people are trying as much as possible use this period to campaign instead of them looking at the disease in itself or looking at the pandemic in itself to address the issues. And the humanitarian they are politicizing it at the moment. So you find a lot of politicians just having their pictures, their slogans and everything on it. And I condemn it quite heavily because we're not looking at politics here. We're looking at how we can solve a deadly demonic disease. So as we speak, it's still going on. And my advice to politicians in Ghana is that look at the people that you are giving these goods to, because when you politicize it, it loses the humanitarian essence of it, whereby it's like you want people to know that you're giving for giving's sake and not you actually having that burden to alleviate the problems that we are facing. So this is where politicians are not doing so well when it comes to giving. But having said that, yes, they are doing their best to give in society.
Wonderful. I think politicians will always do what they know best. That is why they are politicians. But we just want to bring to their attention that it is quite distasteful that in cases of humanitarian in situations like this where they have to do humanitarian acts, the last thing they need to do is to think about themselves. You see, as Eric rightfully said, it loses the essence of you trying to give. It becomes a case of you are thinking about your own selfish interest
and your political future rather than the case that we have at hand.
Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the discussion is getting more and more interesting. If you've just joined us, this is Heritage TV hanging out with Vicky. I have my special guests, Marie and Eric Amoakwa-Boadu, who are personal development coaches and marriage coaches. If you want to contribute to the program, you can join us on all our social media handles at Heritage TV. Please get involved. And talking about social distancing, I want to staying safe, the Stay Safe at Home campaign.
Right.
What's your take on that?
Stay at home. Vic, at the end of the day, government will do what they can. But at the end of the day, your life is your life. It's not the government's life. It's your life. So what we would encourage anybody listening to us in Ghana is that if you don't have any business to do outside, stay at home. I don't know how difficult that is. I don't know why people are finding that so difficult. I mean, right from the get-go, right from the get-go, when the lockdown was put in place, the very next day, we were all Ghanaians all over were eager to see whether for the first time our people were actually going to listen and adhere to the rules. The very next day, we all saw on the news where a certain individual had come out and said that he beat the security agencies because he wanted to come and see with his own eyes whether it is true that people were not out in town.
I mean, how bad is that?
So that's how difficult it is when you're dealing with people with a certain mindset. And again, it takes a lot of education, because you see, the people would ask is, why must I stay at home? And epidemiology will tell you that naturally humans in general don't like to be what not to do. So when you tell somebody what not to do, they will instinctively go out and do exactly what you've asked them not to do, unless you're very good at convincing them or persuading them that these are the reasons why we don't want you to go out. And so personally, I don't think that initially there was enough education done around why they shouldn't go out. And that's why there was chaos around that. Yeah.
I'd like to just add a bit more to that. From our perspective, we've been discussing, COVID-19 here for a long time. And our minds are they should have employed local ambassadors to champion this cause. So let's say Bukombanku, for instance. This man is very influential. You know that boxer from Ghana, Bukombanku?
Yes.
Very influential. Everyone with his community, he entertains them, he gives them money and all that. So if that person is educated enough to understand the essence of staying at home, for instance, the importance of social distancing or wearing a mask, if you equip him enough so that he has the tools and information to understand the nature of this disease, and he goes to tell his own, they would take it rather much easier than the government coming to say stay at home. The nature, as Marie said, with human, when you tell them do this, they're like, oh, Miami Penny, I'm of old. Why should I just listen to someone else tell me stay in my room? Let's say the person has got, when you take these areas like Nima and Bukom, no disrespect, let's say a family of 4 can stay in one room, for instance. And it's so hot in Ghana that it's unbearable to stay inside. So you find them just coming out for fresh air, and in doing so, they interact with their fellow neighbors. So staying home wasn't effective in Ghana, even though it was a very good directive from the government. So what we're saying is that going forward, because this pandemic is still on, they should still educate the community leaders, appoint ambassadors, so that they speak to their own people. So let's say a community of about 100 people, get one ambassador who will just go around and educate their people, their own people. They know him so well that they will listen to him, unless a minister come in there authoritatively saying that stay at home.
Yeah. And just to add, let's dwell a little bit on this point, because it is
there's a lot going on.
It is one of the ways by which we can all stay safe. Just to add to what Eric said about to do the stay-at-home campaign, the local ambassadors, great. As well, using traditional leaders, the chiefs and the queen mothers, they have a role to play too. Because remember, growing up, there were times where you would have somebody come round, those who give the announcements from the traditional rulers. Come around. I can't remember the name. So they would come around and they would make the announcement that at 6 p.m. Nana says this, that, the other. I think the traditional leaders in the rural areas should be engaged as well. But before you engage them, they themselves must have an understanding of what it is that you want them to achieve.
That's right.
You see,
To achieve, yeah.
and then they also can and then they also can train people who then will become the Derobofuono and say that Nana says that so and so and so and so and so and so. So that it's not as if it's always coming from central government or from the leaders alone. Because you see, we are also in a time and a period where politicians have lost a lot of trust with people
And respect.
with people. So what I would suggest to our politicians or to our leaders is that, number one, use the traditional rulers. Number two, use the local ambassadors in the area. Have a habit of oftentimes focusing on celebrities alone. But I want our leaders to understand that times have changed. We are in a time where people have people they believe in called influencers.
Yes.
Find out who these influencers are today in our society, whether they are abroad or in Ghana. Find out who these influencers are and approach them and ask them to be a part of the national campaign. Because you see, let's put this into perspective. Ministry of Information could be given a press briefing. So one of these influencers at the time could be doing a program on social media, and I tell you, the number of people listening to that influencer at that time will be more than those listening to Ministry of Information giving out education
Information.
and a briefing, for all of us to learn something from. So find out who these people are, engage them, and use them as part of the national campaign, because people listen to them. People listen to them, and that might also help, because times have changed, and we need to move with current flow, with current in this situation in 2020. Everybody is now online. So let not the leaders think that they are leaders and therefore it must be their responsibility alone. No, get everybody else involved so that the message spreads far and wide.
In adding more to what Marie has said, I would say that exactly that. When every single individual has at least one phone, some have about 3, access to media is so easy these days, be it WhatsApp, be it Facebook, be it all the other platforms, Instagram. They congregate on traditional TV. So this is where they get their information from. This is where they are influenced by, the people that influence them, influenced by the actions on these platforms. So as Marie said earlier, why not use it? Educate those who are influencers to communicate whatever he says. So let's say the president has given his speech, for instance. The Minister for Information has also come to explain a bit more. The next stage is disseminate that information down a little lower.
That's right.
And that are well placed to do it would be influencers, because people listen to them. So that's where we come in.
But do you see Ghanaians really, seeing the essence of isolation? Did they really see the essence of self-isolation?
I would say no. No, in the sense that not a lot of education was done. Now, when the directive was being given, it was at that time that they were being educated on the essence of the isolation. I would have, thought that government will educate people first on the importance of isolation before giving the actual directive to say stay at home for 3 weeks. It would have been more effective that way, because people would know why they are doing what they're doing, rather than you telling the people just stay at home. Not a lot of people watch the news and know what's happening around the world as well. So let's say if Italy was on lockdown, London was on lockdown, not the whole 30 million people of Ghanaians would even have access to that information. So another thing was that when that directive was given, it was given in English. And it wasn't immediately broken down into all the other languages in Ghana. So that was one area where, let's say, my old man who knows English, who knows how to speak English, or someone else's old man or old woman who doesn't understand what Nana said, Even with the English, they say he speaks. So, these local languages would have gone far and wide for people to understand exactly what was happening and would have followed it with more understanding.
Yeah. But I must say, in government defense, as we are speaking right now, they have translated the president's, I think, the update, I believe it was last week, Sunday or so. It's been translated into 8 different Ghanaian languages. They have it in Twi, they have it in Ewe, they have it in Hausa, Dabani, Dagari, Kusal. I never even knew that we had a language in Ghana called Kusal. I don't know what that language is, or the group of people who speak that. I'll have to do my research. I have it in Ghana and in Zima. So it's very encouraging because, like I said, not everybody understands English. Not everybody has a grandson who has been to school sitting
to translate
what the president is saying or what the Minister of Information is saying. And so having these various languages, I think is very, very helpful and quite essential. By going back to the stay-at-home campaign as well, Vicky, I think it's an amazing campaign. Yeah. We encourage anybody and everybody who can stay at home where necessary to do so. However, here's another reason why it didn't work. Let's not forget that Africa as a whole, poverty is one of our major issues. Yes. Now, you take a slum in Accra, somewhere like Fadama, for example, where there are slums. People live, in a small room. Say maybe people 10 in a small room. Some perhaps with even no windows. How do you then say to those group of people that they should stay indoors? That they are on lockdown? No. That was just physically impossible. Because then it meant that if they stay indoors. Yes.
That's exactly what. Yes. Some sleep on the bench in the evenings or on the floor, the bare floor of shop, in front of shops.
In front of shops. So it meant that those groups of people, if you forcefully kept them indoors, you were going to kill them anyway. They would have died anyway. And they could have died from heat because we live in our climate is quite hot as well. So from hunger, from heat, from congestion, all of these things, all factors. So I remember listening to the mayor of Freetown, Sierra Leone, and she said something that was so profound. And I thought if many African countries could adopt this will be it will be good for us. Hence why I thought lifting the lockdown was the best thing, because it was a lot of problems. I mean, people not following the regulations or the directives was causing a lot of problems. And here's what the mayor of Freetown said. She said that based on their experience from Ebola, people were now attuned to what a pandemic was or what such disease bring about, the devastation of such diseases. And so people of Freetown Leone had an understanding because they had experienced Ebola. However, they just could not really enforce the lockdown by keeping them inside because of poverty. So what they had decided to do was to put their energy rather towards providing water, providing like the hand sanitizers, enforce those things rather than trying to put their energy into keeping the people inside. And I thought that was a brilliant approach that many countries could have followed suit. So for me, lifting the lockdown was just an amazing decision that the government had taken because it just wasn't working. It wasn't working.
And I think the Ministry of Education did a wonderful job. I think all over the world, people are commending the Ministry of Information with, the way they came out with information, from all aspects of the ministries.
I commend the Minister of Information, Kojo Ponkroma, Honorable MP.
Yes.
I don't know, the Minister for Information, Kojo Ponkroma. He did, and his team. I can't take his team out because it's a team effort.
Yeah.
They did a brilliant job informing us on a daily basis as to what's happening. And the good thing is, he doesn't just come there all the time. He allows those with expert information to come in front of the people, to give them experts. For instance, you have the health ministry coming to give their information when it comes to education, even to do with schooling. You have the Minister for Education coming. You have
education.
sector
Yeah.
special information. It's done really well. I listening to him on BBC Africa, for instance, and the answer came out, and his demeanor, how he is in this situation, was very much commendable. So he's done well, and is I think it's an example that the rest of the world is following as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think, just to once again add to what Rick has said, we have sat here from afar. We have watched the Minister of Information, Kojo Opong, and the way he has handled this COVID-19 situation in conjunction with the president, or in support of the president. And Ghanaians need to applaud him. We need to commend him. For me, he's the Minister of the Year. Again, like Eric said, is his leadership. His leadership qualities came through. You know, he really showed through his demeanor, his patience, his ability to answer questions, his intellect, his the way he brought the experts from various sectors to really break things down for us Ghanaians to understand.
Yes.
Not only on his ministry platform, he would leave his ministry platform, and within a matter of hours, he sat on another radio station going over the same thing again. You know, having to himself over and over and over again. How one do. Bear in mind, he's a human being who has a family at home too. So we ought to applaud him as Ghanaians.
Yes.
He has done an exceptional job, and we say, ayuko to him. Ayuko. I think together as a nation, our leaders, for once, even opposition party, Vicky, saw where the president invited all the leaders of the other political parties to the Jubilee House for them to have a tete-a-tete. We saw how that went. We've seen the opposition leader as well, former President Mahama, and how him and his team are also handling things. We cannot afford to sit here and not also give them some form of acknowledgement.
They've done well.
I think all in all have done an amazing job. They have made sure Ghana is where we are today. People agree or not, we are where we are today. I don't think we've done too badly compared to the world superpowers. Yeah.
It's very,
Because there was this. Okay. Go on, Eric.
Mention the world superpowers. When you look at the United States, for instance, who have all the money in the world, who have all the ability to deal with things very spontaneously, we have about 1.134 million cases in the United States. Out of it, they've had 65,000 deaths. So it's alarming. We know they've got a huge population, but if superpowers have not been able to handle properly, and Ghana has been able to contain this in the way we've done it, I think we should commend the people of Ghana. As we are saying, it's a team effort. Every single citizen within Ghana has the ability, the humane responsibility to make sure that this disease is controlled, because we haven't seen it before, and it's more about controlling it rather than anything else.
Yeah.
So Ghanaians have done well.
Yeah, we've done exceptionally well as a nation.
But more can be done, as we're saying. I mean, as we comment,
it's work in progress.
That's right.
Yes.
It's work in progress. But there's more. That is why.
What has this, pandemic? What impact has it had on families? Your observation.
I would say that the family dynamic has changed, and it will change from now on all over the world. The good thing to do with families is that, and I'll talk about families first and then take it to our society. The good thing to families is that families have now learned to live with each other harmoniously. Had parents living with them for a very long period of time and being in each place for a long time. Dads who have been at home every evening as opposed to dads who are not home every evening. That's really good as well. Marriage have also suffered as a result of this on families. But in its entirety, I say it's taught the world how to be silent, how to just pause and live together as it should be. In the UK, for instance, I saw videos of animals coming into the streets, for instance. Nature is just replenishing itself. So the family set, as well as even in the animal kingdom, things are resetting themselves.
Mm.
And then when Maria has been a bit more on society.
And I know, and I know what I'm going to say. Marie, go on.
Right, I was going to say that I think Eric has touched on the positives of the impact that COVID-19 has had on families. But I would also like for us to look on the flip side of the coin, where some families have also suffered, not just in the West where we live, but even in Ghana. I've heard discussions on TV where domestic violence has been on the rise. Figures have gone up in terms of domestic violence, where women are being abused, children are being abused, even some men are also being abused. Because when it comes to abuse or domestic violence, it's both ways. But oftentimes, statistics have proven that women suffer domestic violence more than men. So yes, there's been families who have been impacted negatively. In fact, the day that we left here, and I teach in a primary school, the day that we closed our schools, I shed I had teary eyes. The reason I had teary eyes was that for some children, the hours that they are at school is their only safety. For some children, for some children here West, free school meals that they have, only they have in a whole day, believe it or not. And so for me, that was what broke my heart, that what are these children going to do? Not knowing, we as adults were confused, how much more children, So that really, it really bothered me, and the point that, I was teary-eyed because I was thinking about those children. So I think, yes, it has had a form of negative impact on certain families. I believe I've even heard that divorce is on the rise because of this.
Yes.
Home, and so on. So we would encourage the authorities or the institute Ghana look these things like DOVSU, which is a domestic violence victims unit. When other agencies who look these things, particular attention to anyone who brings reports to them, to the police in Ghana. Anybody who brings any reports to them, please not take it lightly. They should take it seriously, because people's lives. I believe during the President's Aid update, he also mentioned mental health, because all these negative impacts, even not understanding the pandemic itself, not understanding why you have to stay home, not having to work, children being at home all of a sudden, and so forth, can get people to develop mental illness. So it's something we all need to pay attention to. But on a high note, on a more positive note, it has brought many also together.
Now,
what I can add to this, all right, Eric, go.
So when it comes to impact on society, for instance, Ghanaians like funerals a lot, like our church gatherings and all. We like getting together.
Yeah.
But this pandemic taught us a few things, that you can do a funeral, organize a funeral with less people than previously we had been doing. So going forward, you would realize that there will be even online funerals, for instance, or you'd have a funeral where you have just 25 people going forward. So that the way we do that as a society, we imagine at gatherings, you wouldn't see thousands of people gathering and being crammed in one building. You'd have people being well spaced out. The 2-meter rule was high. And then the wearing of masks would be something that's normal. I can't remember back in the days, we used to laugh at the Chinese people for wearing their masks.
Yes.
Now this single person going out would have to wear a mask. And I think that's quite mandatory at the moment, because I was on the Ministry of Health website, and they've just issued a mandatory warning that food sellers, vendors, vehicle drivers, attendants in communities, public transport, persons in public and commercial centers, facilities or buildings, all wearing their masks. And this is by law. So you'll realize that in society, a lot more Ghanaians will be wearing their masks even after this pandemic is over, because you never know when it surfaces. That's right. So these are certain impacts on our society, not to talk about even the financial impact on alone. We've gone for a loan of about $3 billion from the IMF, from the IMF, for instance.
Is it 1.3 now?
They're about 1.3 billion, yes, from the IMF.
Wow.
And just to deal with the financial effect, other countries are even borrowing more than that. Yeah. Nigeria is about 3 billion.
3.4 or so.
That's right. Financially, it will just impact our society as well as families as well.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mandatory, I think the mandatory wearing of masks should also go hand in hand with the social. As for the social distancing, it should be enforced none other. Because bear in mind, the disease spreads from human to human contact, isn't it? Yeah. So the social distancing as well should be.
Vicky, let me just chip this in as well. Talking about social distancing, we heard over the weekend there's an installment of a chief or a king in one of the areas in Eastern region. And we condemn that because they have waited. When you see the video, and I'm not seeing it, I won't mention the name, but there was an installment of one of the young chiefs, and it happened on the 1st of May, which is about 2 days ago.
Just yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And you see the amount of people gathered in that area. Flout rules of social distancing. But that begs to just condemnation. And there have been a lot of people who have called for the people to be arrested in Ghana. And then I read another news where there was from Kumasi to Ofin, and the government overloaded. It was meant to take about 50 people or so, about 120 on that bar. So people are not really observing it at all. And it turns for the government to keep people. You know, saying social distancing is one of the most important factors in this, in impacting this disease.
I would have even wished the military would still stay on even after the, COVID-19 is gone, to discipline people. I'm hoping. Yeah.
But you see, Vicky, what going back to the installment that happened yesterday, what beats my mind, they had security agencies guarding the whole situation, i.e. the police. Yes. The police was there. So for me, I don't understand why just a few weeks ago, the security agencies were deployed to tell people to stay home. We saw people being disciplined and so on. And then just a few weeks, about 2 weeks after the lockdown has been lifted, the same security agencies have once again, because somebody must have applied for it somewhere. And said for them to go ahead with this installment. Somebody must have gone to ask for the police to come and guard them, and that's also granted. So why were all these things, permits given? Why wasn't the installment postponed in the first place? Why couldn't it wait? I hear that there was a dispute that has been around for about like a 3-year dispute. And so what? 3-year dispute, and so what? You see, so then it begins to beg questions as to, could it have been political? Could it be that, somebody knew something and they have allowed this to go? You see, it raises a lot of unnecessary questions that perhaps unnecessary doubts that can be avoided. Unnecessary doubts that can be avoided had this not been allowed to go on. Not to sound too tragic, just a few weeks ago when the lockdown was on, we saw again on social media through our news outlets, our news agencies in Ghana, where a group of people who believe in rituals had gone to the seaside to perform some rituals, and they had hot water on them by the police, allegedly that it was hot water sprayed on them. You see, so then right after the lockdown, have these other group of people been allowed to head with the installment? Yes, lockdown has been lifted. One thing Ghanaians must bear, yes, it is almost coming across as if Ghanaians or the majority of Ghanaians think or believe that it is only by lockdown that we can eradicate COVID-19 from Ghana. It is not only through the lockdown. It is a combination of the lockdown is just to contain people so that as earlier the testing can happen, the contact tracing can happen easily of these things. The most important measures you taking precautions and preventive measures, i.e. by looking after yourself. So if you don't have anything to do outside, you stay at home. If you definitely have to go outside for essential reasons, as in going to get food, etc., you have to work, you have to go and get medicine and so on and so forth. Or now that everybody is free and can go out in Ghana, just wear the mask. Wear the mask. Keep a gap, a 1-2 gap between whoever is in front of you, behind you, on either side of you. Those are your personal responsibility. Our government cannot come and do those things for you. You see, so, and this is what brings me back to the point that it is a collective responsibility on all of us.
Okay.
On all of us. So I think, thank you very much for hosting this program, because we needed to have the conversation and one.
And I think one of the positive things that has come out of this is, Ghanaians being innovative. We've seen a lot of innovations. And I think our attitude towards cleanliness is going to change after this, pandemic is, gone. Production of the face masks as well. I'm told we are locally producing the face masks, which is going to boom a lot of, people getting jobs. So to me, I think I'll add these 3 things. You can also touch on them briefly because of our time. So to go back to it, I have seen that people, have been very creative with a lot of innovations. People having water sanitizer even attached to taxis, and also I believe that our attitude toward cleanliness is going to improve and get better. Can you touch on what you want to add to these few that I've added, being some of the positives that has come out of this pandemic?
Exactly. I mean, a lot of positive, innovative in a sense, creative in sense. When it comes to us using technical abilities of the individual Ghanaian, I think we've led the way in terms of how we've invented, let's say, sanitizing machines. I saw one this morning, a physics teacher from Kumasi, where you just go through it and it sprays your whole body, for instance.
Wow.
People are just coming out of their own shell to create. And I think in the past, people had that skill set, but they were afraid to come out because, in our society, we just pull people down. When you're doing well, our nature is that we just pull you down. We are now coming out of ourselves, and I will say that we should continue with this. We should not depend on the white man to come and give us what he has invented. The African individual, and the Ghanaian, to be precise, is more than able and capable to do inventions of our own. I mean, we have people that designing ventilators, for instance. You have people that are just designing how to dispense without touching the equipment. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, we should carry on. And as you mentioned, a whole factory just churning out the masks. And these are high quality masks with filters in the middle of it. That's right. And I was listening to the news where an American presenter, was just commending Ghana so America produce their own masks, and a country like Ghana is producing their own masks. So it's reached the world, and Ghana is now on the map.
Yeah. I think what I would add to it is, and you can see from the phase, as the saying goes, invention is the mother of necessity. I think that's the saying, or necessity is the mother of inventions, rather. So necessity is the mother of inventions. How do they say it in tree? Say a futuo and sakrawa just in social or something like that. Aha. It's and social ababe sakraye and Ghanaians. And we hope that in social ababe sakraye. So we hope that, as we said, number one, that our cleanliness
That's a huge area.
Yes, that we will take our cleanliness seriously. I mean, for me, I didn't understand why government had to ask military personnel to desilt the gutters, to clean the gutters and cleanse in the market.
Exactly.
They should have brought the market women, the queen mothers of the markets. They should have, I mean, with all due respect, but it needs to be said. Yes, because if somebody makes them and you come and you clean it for them, they will only go back and repeat it again because they know in their subconscious that you will do it again for them again. But if you get them to do that dirty work themselves, that will be a lesson. So fine, we applaud and kudos to our military personnel for clearing the mess and for desilting the gutters and everything. But we entreat the queen mothers of the market that they should make sure moving forward now, post lifting the lockdown, that the markets are kept clean. We are the same Ghanaians who get up and go and sit in church to worship God. God does not like filth. The saying goes that cleanliness is next to godliness. And so let us adopt a mindset of cleanliness. Let us adopt a mindset of cleaning our surroundings. And we also urge government. Once upon a time, government said it was the attitude of Ghanaians. I also have to differ because if it's the attitude of Ghanaians, fair enough. But what measures have you government as well put in place? If you have provided a bin, rubbish bins all over the place for people to dump their trash in, and even when they have dumped it in, you have a system where it is clear daily basis, in fact, maybe even twice a day, to a landfill or a dump site. It is recycled, and that system continues, then we will not see up of the filth that we do. Look at what happened to the bridge that broke in Kuma area.
Oh my goodness! It was you who informed me, and when I saw it, I was shocked.
That's right. See, so it's a collective responsibility.
Let me add a bit more. You know, the government saw the need, and I'll be quite brief, that in the next 1 year, 88 schools, because there's that urgent, this disease has opened our eyes. Disease that we didn't have disease. So among the 88 districts, there'll be a hospital in the district. The same manner in which we saw that, we should also look at the dirt and the filth within the country, whereby we erect, landfills. Are they called landfills?
I believe they.
Yes, landfills in every district, so that every place of just taking their heaps of filth for it to be disposed of in the right manner. And we have experts in the country that will be able to dispose of them. It's not only Zoom Lion, and Zoom Lion is doing a fantastic job, but there should be other competitors that come into the market to help this, because the work is a lot. So we need a lot more to be done in every district.
Yeah.
And so doing, the whole country will be clean.
Yeah. And just to add that, I mean, Eric and I were sitting here the other day having this conversation, and Eric, something that was so profound. He said that now that we do not have external influence because our borders are closed, look at how innovative and the inventions that are coming out. Why they are not seeing the white man coming in? Yes, the white man is not coming into our country to influence us. The white man is not coming into our country to take our focus off ourselves.
That's right.
So look at all these inventions and innovations that are used. What I would suggest is that I envision this in my head. I visualize this in my head, and it's just hypothetical. If we can put a wall around Ghana, let's put a wall around ourselves. Give ourselves maybe the next 3 to 5 years, or even a 10 years, say to ourselves that we're really going to entertain too much foreign influence. We are going to focus on what we have within our own country and produce, manufacture, come up with our own things. Vicky, Ghana, if it took China 30 years, a whole generation, to get to where they are now, I wouldn't even say a whole generation, because from birth to 30 years, you haven't really lived anyway. And if it's taking China almost 30 to 40 years to get to where they are now, we can start today. And in the next 40 years, where you and I will be in our 80s, we'll see a transformed.
And the good thing is, because they've for 40 years, we've learned a lot from them. So we will shrink it down.
We will shrink that because we have the wheel. The wheel
Someone has done it
there.
before. We will just not reinvent the wheel.
That is right.
We'll learn from them and quickly shrink it.
That's correct. You see, so let's put a wall around our country, and let us focus on what we have and make the most of what we have. Let's grow our own food. We are already growing food, planting for food and jobs. Let's all patronize that as Ghanaians. We have God has blessed us with all the minerals. Let us learn how to take the ground from the earth, process them into whatever we need to process them into, sell them, make whatever and the money that we generate, let us bring the money back into the system, pump the money into our health, into education, into all of these areas that would really help the society to thrive. You see, let us pump money into research centers. Like the president said, it has taken COVID-19. And I paraphrase here, the president says that through this disease, they now realize that our health system has been neglected and investment has not been pumped into our health system. We have 6 new regions that were created last year. None of them has a regional hospital. How on earth do we sit down in a nation 63 years post-independence with 88 districts with no hospitals? Unthinkable. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. Getting a platform like this and Heritage TV for us to have some of these conversations, because they need to hear our voices from the diaspora. And I know that our president is one who always champions or is always promoting the fact that Africans in diaspora need to be heard and need to be a part of the transformation process. There is a lot of work that needs to be done on the continent. We need to somehow find a way of coming together and working together rather than to deceive actually have is them versus them. There's always that division. Those of you abroad and those of us back home. Let us all find a way of coming to the table and having these conversations and seeing how best we can work together for a common, and the common good is promote our countries, to lift up and to lift the continent up and to fix it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Just briefly, in about 5 minutes, I just want to just go back a little bit talking about the face mask. I've noticed that Eric has got a painting behind him with the face masks. I think this is your perspective from the artist's point of view. Can you tell us a little bit? And if viewers would like to have such a beautiful arc, played in their homes, offices, tell us the motivation behind it and how people can get in touch with you if they need to have such a beautiful piece, in their homes or in their offices. So I would like to have one.
Yes, really good observation from you. So behind me, and I'll let Marie shift a little bit, there's this painting that I've done, and I'm an artist as well as an engineer. There's this painting that I've done which actually communicates the message of safety and love. So during this pandemic, the key thing is that stay safe, and that safety comes from yourself. Check yourself. Use that face mask as often as you can when you're stepping out of home. And then in doing so, do so with me, because love conquers all. This piece is love conquers all. Now, in doing so, you are loving your fellow human being by putting yourself and putting them. And this message is communicated by this painting behind me. So if you really want a piece of this, I'll be auctioning this on my website as well as on my social media handles. As well as there'll be print versions of it so that as many people as want it can get it as well. Social media handle would be on Instagram. My Instagram is Eric_Amoakwa_artist. I'll paste the information behind us, and if anyone wants to follow me, do well to follow. And I'm doing more pieces on this as well.
But practice social distancing.
Sorry?
I didn't see the people in that picture practicing social distancing.
So that's a husband and a wife. This is a husband and a wife. So as husband and wife, as we
Oh,
were
so
saying
they
last
don't
year.
need social. Oh, right.
That's
Good.
right. That's right.
That's
They are
good. Okay.
self-isolating. I think, yeah. I think for me, from you, Eric posted this, and I saw his caption that it was love on his Facebook page. I took a look at the eyes of the lady, and I could see. I thought the eyes communicating hope. So what we want people to understand is that it's not all doom and gloom. Even though many people have died in the world through COVID-19, and we send our condolences and our deepest sympathy to all families all across the world. Anybody who watches us who's been affected, and they've lost somebody, we say, we're sorry for your loss. Even in Ghana, as we're talking now, there are 18 deaths recorded. But it's not all doom and gloom, because many people have also recovered from COVID-19. And that alone gives us a lot of hope. So for me, the eyes of the woman brings that hope anytime I look at the painting. And I cling on to that, as well as to prayer, and also making sure that we're looking after ourselves and having a lot of fun and a lot of laughter. So people should hang on to hope. There is hope. There is hope.
Wonderful. Wow. I think you guys have a lot to share with us. So I would probably ask you if we can, have another program again for you guys to impact us with the wisdom that you guys have, that rich wisdom, because I know you have a lot to tell. If we are to have this program for the next 3 hours, I know still we will have a lot to talk about. And may I also take this opportunity to wish all those who have lost loved ones, have our condolences. The Lord is their strength. And also those who have survived. If the person is not close to you, wouldn't know how this has affected a lot of people. So on behalf of Heritage TV and on behalf of Marie and Eric, we all, send our condolences to all of you. Any last words from Mr. and Mrs. before we close the show?
Yeah, I think for me, my last words would be that if anybody back home in Ghana is confused, or even those of us abroad, because we have families back home, if you are unsure of something, the information that is being shared, you're not too sure what you're hearing on the radio, you're confused, you want more information. For me, what I would suggest is that head to the Ministry of Information social media platforms. Their Facebook page in particular, it is packed with a lot of information. Alternatively, there's a helpline that they've put out, which I believe is 0555 31 1311. 0555 31 1311. I believe that is the number. Because I had stored, the reason why I say I believe is because I had the code, the Ghana code. So I hope I haven't left anything out. Anybody is unsure, hop onto their page or give them a call on the helpline, and let they themselves give you first-hand information, because the hearsay, if you're not careful, might cause a lot of problems. But yeah, social distancing, wearing your masks, stay safe, stay where necessary.
And she just mentioned what I was going to say. But in addition to what Marie has said, I think we should keep our faith that humanity will still go on after this pandemic. And therefore, we should let faith rise above what's happening. We should ensure that we follow all these 4 steps. Social distancing, number 1. Using our face masks, number 2. Washing our hands under running water. Using the hand sanitizers. That's right. And most of all, keeping the faith in God Almighty.
Yeah.
Wonderful said. Well said. Thank you so much.
Spirit. The true Ghanaian spirit. Yeah, the Ghanaian spirit.
True Ghanaian spirit. Yes. Yeah. So Maria and Eric, I hope we wouldn't mind coming on our program again to discuss, a different topic as well. We would love to have you on again, ladies and gentlemen. So. Should I say unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. And I think you've learned a lot from this. We've got a lot of viewers all over the world. We've got a lot of viewers, especially from Ghana as well. And they've really been educated, impacted in what has today. Please protect yourselves. Please wash your hands. 20 seconds, Marie?
Yeah, 20 seconds. Sing it. You can sing
20
happy
seconds.
birthday.
Okay. Happy birthday. Oh
Happy
my
birthday
God.
twice as you're washing your hands.
Yeah. 20 seconds and use your hand sanitizers. Yeah. Yes. And please take good care of yourself. And please, if your neighbor is in need of anything, let's all love one another. If you're going shopping and you realize your neighbor needs help, can you please ask the neighbor if you could get something for that neighbor as well, so that it will be just one trip? Then drop it off at the neighbor. We all love each other, and we're all going to stay safe. It wouldn't let people go out every now and then to go and get things in the shop. But if we're able to help each other, buy it in bulk, then whatever your neighbor needs, you drop it at the door, then that is it. Let's try in any small way to help each other. Thank you so much, Marie and Eric. And viewers, we thank you also for staying with us throughout the program. We hope to come your way during the week. So stay tuned and we'll have another interesting to discuss. Take good care of yourself, stay safe. And I also like to say thank you to all the health professionals who have been on the front line. Not only the health professionals, but all key workers. We appreciate you, we adore you for all your sacrifices. Thank you. May God richly bless you. On Verite TV, stay safe and take care. Bye-bye.
Everybody in London, have you heard that Heritage Television has come up with something new? All your functions and celebrations can now be multi-camera live stream that was only reserved for the rich and famous. Having a function in London can be viewed clean and clear immediately from any part of the world. Trust Heritage TV to give you a better reach. Heritage Television also does photography that will make you the envy of all your friends and family. Heritage Television is the best. All your functions like birthdays, funerals, weddings, church anniversaries or harvest. Heritage Television is the master. We are in the heart of London with an ultra-modern equipped studio. You can call us on 020-800-46100 or email us info@heritagetv.co.uk or mobile 0734 1234 560. Heritage Television will do you proud.